Transformations are a TTRPG mechanic that are perfect for evoking the themes and atmosphere of a dark fantasy world such as Grimhollow. They allow your 5e character to change into something monstrous. You may be suffering from the effects of lycanthropy. You may be aspiring for immortality by transforming into a lich. We made a great video about how to incorporate the Grimhollow transformations into your 5e campaign, which you can find right here. But the important thing to note is that transformations are intended to evoke a sense of dread as much as a sense of power. My name is Byrne, and these are 3 more of my favorite transformation and class combinations for both their mechanical and narrative synergies. You are an exile who has wandered far from your destined path in life. Perhaps you are the child of a god yourself, hiding from the fate that you did not ask for. This could be the tale of your ranger who is transforming into a seraph. There are more obvious choices for a seraph transformation, such as a cleric or a pious monk. Seraphs require wisdom as their main ability score, but it would be simple to ask your GM to change this to charisma if you wanted your paladin or your divine soul sorcerer to ascend to the heavens. Yet I like the ranger for the seraph transformation because it rules as written mechanically synergizes, but also because of one line of lore written in the becoming a seraph transformation description. Being chosen for celestial ascension, quote, is a charge not to be taken lightly, and those who display righteousness with the intention of becoming a seraph are usually overlooked for this reason. The ranger is often embodied by noble characters who may have hidden themselves or have refused the call, but ultimately they will rise up as great heroes and conquerors of evil. Mechanically, there is quite a lot to love in this transformation build. It synergizes with the ranger wanting to have wisdom as its secondary ability score. And at the first level of the transformation, typically between character levels 1 to 5, you'll get a nice little buff to your wisdom mod, which is going to obviously stack across all your ranger spellcasting as well. And you also just straight up grow permanent angelic wings. This is amazing for sniping enemies from outside of their reach with your longbow, but also enables you to explore difficult to reach places. You do gain the transformation flaw that you permanently have disadvantage on death saving throws as the heavens try to claim your soul. But there are some higher transformation boons that may help offset that. At transformation level 2, which you'll usually reach around tier 2, you can choose one boon from the following 3 options, all of which are fantastic for the ranger. Choosing Divine Retribution allows you to attack an additional time on your turn as a bonus action, dealing plus 1d8 radiant damage on a hit. So that's 3 longbow attacks per turn at level 5 for a ranger. If you've taken the hunter archetype, 2 of those attacks does 2d8 damage, and that's not even accounting for hunter's mark. You could instead take Divine Clemency, which allows you to cast Cure Wounds as a reaction to taking damage. This could increase your ability to avoid going down and therefore avoid those disadvantaged death saving throws that we mentioned earlier. And thirdly, you could choose Divine Expedition, which is the least exciting of the 3 options. Basically, it allows you to move at the start of another creature's turn without provoking attacks of opportunity. This is great for keeping your enemies at range and further avoiding danger to yourself. All of these options come with the terrible transformation flaw that you become shockingly beautiful and radiant, so that evil creatures are almost certain to become instantly hostile towards you. I think that's a pretty fair trade for how good each of those boons can be. Finally, I want to mention the 3rd level transformation boon option for Seraphs, which is just so perfect for rangers, and it's the Bow of Celestial Judgment. Admittedly, you're not likely to get this bow until at least 9th or 10th level, depending on your GM, but once you have it, it has limitless arrows and it can be summoned and banished just like a pact weapon. It deals an additional 1d8 radiant damage on every attack against all creatures, and that becomes 2d8 against fiends, fae, and undead. A 10th level ranger with the hunter archetype and hunter's mark could therefore be dealing a total of, I think, 5d8 plus 2d6 damage per turn, plus a third attack of an additional 3d8 plus 1d6, depending on whether you took that earlier Seraph boon. A quick note on which ranger subclass fits best with the Seraph transformation, and honestly, it's any of them that fits your character concept. I'd likely play the hunter archetype for the pure raw longbow damage output that we've already talked about, but a Gloomstalker could work for a warrior of a shadowy or mysterious deity like the Raven Queen. A Horizon Walker could also work for a Seraph who frequently travels to the heavens for new orders or crusades down into the hells. Giants are thunderous monsters of physical destruction on a massive scale. And thanks to the latest Grim Hollow supplement, The Raider's Guide to Valaka, your character can now transform into one during your campaign. Of course, no class matches better thematically as a raging force of nature than creating a giant barbarian. There's a lot of mechanical synergies between the barbarian and the giant too. At the first level of the transformation, you'll get a buff to your strength and con, very helpful for a barbarian to have. You'll also obviously grow in size and are now counted as large, with a nice little health bump as well that will make your barbarian even more durable. From here, your choice of boons really depends on the theme that you want for your giant barbarian and which subclass you choose for your character. Path of the Storm Herald is really great for deciding that your barbarian is transforming either into a storm, fire, or ice giant specifically. Do you want to summon scorching flames or a bolt of lightning when you rage? Can you freeze water beneath your heavy footsteps or immolate large objects in your massive grip? In this circumstance, the higher level transformation boons you'll likely want to take will focus on continuing to increase your strength score, which can now reach a new maximum of 24. At the third level of your giant transformation, you could also gain the ability to focus your wrath into your melee weapon to inflict an additional 1d12 damage into all of your attacks for a single turn. It's sort of a giant barbarian's version of Divine Smite. The alternative giant barbarian build that I think I would prefer is what I'm calling the Hill Giant. This version might be a little less mechanically min-maxed, perhaps suitably so for hill giants, but I think it's a whole lot more fun. There are giant transformation boons that allow you to pick up a foe and hurl them away from yourself. You can even fling them into other enemies to create not an insignificant amount of damage. You can grow jagged bone knuckles that grant your unarmed strike 2d6 plus your strength modifier in damage, and you can even grow to the point of being able to pick up creatures and swallow them whole, dissolving them in your stomach acid. The Path of the Berserker is the subclass that I would take here because the extra bonus action attack provides more opportunities to grapple foes, which is required for throwing or swallowing them, but it also thematically makes sense that a hill giant might be a little bit more savage and a little bit less intellectual than their giant kin. All transformations come with flaws, and giants are honestly quite appropriate. Early on, your food needs grow with your size, requiring you to consume a substantial amount of sustenance each day or suffer levels of exhaustion. As you get bigger, it becomes almost impossible for you to stealth or hide your tracks, and you might frighten creatures smaller than yourself without meaning to, making them harder to persuade. If we're honest, loud and clumsy, eats more food than their body weight, and are bad at charisma unless it's intimidation, kinda describes a fairly typical barbarian anyway. Monsters lurk on the edges of our reality. No god or religion can explain them, for they are aberrant and other. You might find yourself turning to spirituality if you are a monk being slowly transformed into an aberrant horror. How this came to pass could be from contact with a cursed idol, an ancient curse against your family, or the passing of a disease from another aberrant creature that almost slew you. In any case, the aberrant horror is one of the most horrific Grim Hollow transformations that we've been yet to tackle, and as a comment pointed out on a previous video, a monk makes for an incredibly powerful aberration transformation. This is primarily because the first level transformation boon, Aberrant Adaption, allows you to choose the damage type of your unarmed strikes by mutating your limbs into fleshy tentacles or bony spears. You could grow a chitinous shell, which gives you a +2 bonus to your armor class. It also lowers your speed as the shell makes you less mobile, but this is compensated for by the monk's unarmored movement anyway. It's at the second level of the transformation that you get the boon called Efficient Killer, and this is where the monk becomes shockingly powerful. Now you can transform your limbs into even deadlier appendages, doing 2d6 slashing damage with every unarmed strike. That's 4d6 a turn and 6d6 if you're using Flurry of Blows, and that's not even accounting for adding your dexterity score to the attack's damage, which of course, as a monk, you use instead of strength. At the third level of the Aberrant Horror transformation, you could choose to grow wings, ensuring that you can always get into melee with your quarry. Or you could buff your unarmed strikes even further to do 2d8 bludgeoning or slashing damage instead. Choosing the story of your Aberrant Monk is going to come down to choosing your subclass. Perhaps you choose Way of the Open Hand to play a pugilist-style commoner rather than a trained warrior, who is important to the story of your campaign because of an other being that chose them as the vessel rather than in spite of it. Maybe you chose the Way of the Long Death or the Way of the Shadow to embrace the terror of your transformation and become a creature lurking in the shadows. Way of the Astral Self would be a very interesting pick for your character to represent the cerebral and metaphysical aspects of cosmic horror as much as the monstrous and body horror side of things. Or perhaps you've turned to the Way of the Drunken Master to cope with the horrible insignificance of your existence as you are slowly absorbed into the other being. Of course, all of these considerable buffs do come packaged with the flaws of an Aberrant Horror transformation, which revolve around your body suffering unstable mutations. After each long rest, you roll on the mutation table and see what effect that has on your body. This ranges from being unable to keep down food or potions as you vomit forth a black ichor, to having disadvantage on initiative rolls as your body gains a will of its own. Some of these might be mildly annoying for a monk, but none of them are so crippling to the class, and to be fair, is probably fairly balanced. You will, of course, become horrific and hideous to look upon, but with any transformation, this can be hidden by concentrating, and monks don't have much competing for their concentration. And those are 3 more of my favorite transformation class combinations. We've done a few of these videos now on the channel, so you can check out the other ones if you wish. If you want to try transformations in your campaign, you can get them from the Grim Hollow campaign guide, or check out the Kickstarter page for Raider's Guide to Valakar, where you can get the giant transformation entirely for free. If you want to learn more about how to incorporate transformations into your dark fantasy campaign, check out this video just up here where we go into a bit more detail. Or if you want to learn how to make elementals formidable threats to your party, check out this video down here.